as one columnist puts it in a Fox News op-ed, we're operating under a grossly unfair and unethical system where almighty government officials don't suffer any financial hardship during the pandemic while taxpayers who fund their salaries get kicked in the shins. Luckily, there's a solution. Voters must demand that elected officials forfeit their own paychecks when any business is shuttered under their mandate. Power panel now. Wendy Osefo, professor of education at the Johns Hopkins University. Matt Gorman, former National Republican Congressional Committee Communications Director. Great to see you both. Wendy, this is complicated. Like, I guess it must be because it keeps happening. Now you have it happening at the highest levels. You set the rules, follow the rules. I do it with my kids.
Absolutely. But what we see here is a pattern of practice when it comes to elected officials or people in high places of power, is that they tell us what to do. They tell us how we should live our lives. But unfortunately, they do not follow the same recommendations that they set forth for other people. And I think that who's really getting hurt here is the American people. There are so many people who have been away from their family for months. We have spent how many holidays away from each other? And we're doing this because we're trying to flatten the curve. But here goes someone who's really in charge of, what's going on as far as, COVID-19 and a part of the task force. And she's breaking the same rules in which she's saying that Americans should adhere to. So we have to stop doing this because we cannot make it such that people in power are able to benefit from certain things, but then us normal taxpayers, average day Americans continue to be hurt. There has to be systems in place to forego that.
Matt, there seems to be a crisis of this. I've been collecting Harris's hunt for hypocrisy, and I can make the list longer every day. I mean, from Governor Gavin Newsom out in California at that Michelin 3-star restaurant with top medical officials, mask off, huddled in, 21 people at the table. I mean, rolling like ballers at $3.50 a plate.
You're absolutely right. And I have criticized Democrats for this, and I'm not going to be hypocritical about it. You need to be consistent, especially with telling people to stay home for Thanksgiving. Look, I admire Dr. Birx. She has done really good work on the pandemic, but for decades before on the AIDS crisis, she's been criticized unfairly by Democrats. But in this scenario, you have to be consistent if you're telling people to be careful and stay home around the holidays.
Yeah, I call it swamp-tastic behavior. It is about that privilege. So, as we move forth, I just had on the U.S. Surgeon General with me moments ago, and we've got another kind of different type of wave of this, and I want to know where the vaccinations are coming from to hit those younger members of Congress, bipartisan now, getting the shot in the arm ahead of even the 75-year-olds on the Hill. Wendy?
Again, right? We talk about power and privilege and the ways in which that's negotiated within our society. So if there is something, I believe it was AOC who stated that there is some type of written, dialogue that says if you're a member of Congress, you get this as a preventative act, then that's completely fine. But what I would also like to say is that just because you have members who are able to get this does not mean that we should not look at people who are senior citizens. We shouldn't look at younger people. So again, everyone needs to be able to get this vaccine.
Representative Lee Zeldin of New York put out a tweet that caught my eye last night, Matt. He said he could, he won't. He wants the frontline workers and other people to get it first. I believe the President of the United States said that too. You with the last few seconds, Matt.
No, and I understand where that's coming from. I think as long as it's for continuity of government and they're not cutting the line, that's understandable. But I think politicians and vastly are very disconnected from this.
All right. Good to see you both. Thank you for joining me.